This story is a Japanese folktale entitled The Crane Wife, which is arguably the most popular Japanese folktale in all of Japan. And like so many stories that Japanese parents tell their children, it centers around the great white cranes, which, as you may know, are large, beautiful, snow white birds that stand, about 4 feet tall, with a wingspan of 5 to 6 feet and long, graceful, curved necks like those of swans. They're found all over Japan, Southeast Russia, China, and in tropical regions all over the world. But it's in Japan that the cranes are especially revered and are often depicted in their stories and in their folk tales as possessing magical powers bordering on the miraculous, as they do in my telling as well of this beloved folk tale, The Crane Wife. Once, long ago in Japan, there lived a poor woodcutter named Ichiro, who after a long day of cutting wood in the forest was walking home along the side of a rice paddy when he spotted a great white crane that appeared to be in some distress. When he got close enough to the bird, he saw what the problem was. One of its legs was caught in a hunter's trap, and it was struggling frantically to free itself. "Shusha, my friend, do. Quieta," Ichiro said, "and I will help you." Then he bent down and he opened up the trap, freeing the frightened bird, which took a few wobbly steps, then spread its long white wings, and before you could say sayonara, was high up in the air, off to rejoin its flock, leaving Ichiro feeling relieved, yet wondering if the bird even knew that he'd just saved its life. His reverie, however, was short-lived, as just then the hunter, who was out making his rounds, checking on his traps, saw Ichiro free the bird and angrily confronted him. "You must pay me for the loss of my property," demanded the hunter, "or I shall report you to the prefect." "But I have no money to pay you," protested Ichiro. "I am a poor hunter. I barely make enough cutting wood to feed myself. If I must pay you, I would be forced to go hungry." "Ha!" snarled the hunter. "You should have thought about that before you vandalized my trap." Angry at his insinuation and a bit scared, Ichiro pushed past the hunter and continued on his way home. That night, while Ichiro was cooking his evening meal, a gentle knock came at his door. When he opened it, there, standing in the chill night air, was a beautiful young woman dressed in a thin cotton kimono. Now, this was something that didn't happen to Ichiro all that often. A beautiful woman standing at his front door. In fact, it had never happened. So dumbfounded, he just stood there for maybe 15 or 20 seconds, like a statue, until finally the young woman asked, "May I come in? It's very cold out here." "Oh, yes," stammered Ichiro, finally finding his tongue. I'm sorry, but you are so beautiful. I'm not sorry you are beautiful. Please, come in and warm yourself by the fire." So the young woman entered Ichiro's home and stood by the fire, revived by its warmth. "I am afraid I got separated from my flock today, Stu," she said. My friends. "You see, I am not from this place. Then I saw the light from your window. As I say, I am not from this place and know of nowhere else I could go. So I wonder if I may impose upon your kindness and stay here until the morning. I have a bag of rice what I would be happy to share." So Ichiro poured her bag of rice along in the pot along with his own. Then they both ate, and soon afterward, the young woman exhausted from her trying day, fell fast asleep. Ichiro sat up by the fire a while longer, looking at her beautiful face, wondering about the future. In the morning, Ichiro awoke early. He was concerned and mystified by the previous day's and night's events. Would the hunter report him to the prefect as he said he would? Would the prefect put him in jail? Would the young woman be here when he returned? Would he return? Taimusa will tell, Ichiro thought. So he pulled on his boots, buttoned up his coat, and with one long, last hopeful look at the young woman asleep on the floor of his house, he set off for work. He followed the same path as he did the previous day along the side of the rice paddy. No sense of trying to avoid the inevitable, he thought. But the path was clear. No hunter, no prefect. He walked unmolested to the forest work site, where he cut his quota of wood for the day. On the way home, however, he wasn't so lucky, as he was greeted by both the hunter and the prefect at the very spot that he'd freed the great crane. There he is, pointed out the hunter. He's the one who vandalized my trap. Is that so? Asked the prefect. I gave you no thought to who possessed what, Ichiro pleaded. Only that the great crane was in distress. The prefect, who was known for his uncompromising treatment of vandals and thieves, scratched his chin. His gruff features and stern gaze, uncompromising as well, seemed to soften a bit upon hearing Ichiro's plea. I do see, he said. Nevertheless, your actions did deprive the hunter of his profit. So, under these circumstances, you have 30 days to make the hunter whole. Relieved not to be put in jail, Ichiro bowed to the hunter, then continued down the path to home. When he got there and opened the door, the afternoon's events still swirling in his head, he'd all but forgotten about the young woman and whether she'd still be there or not. But before he could step inside, he hesitated. His house, he noticed, was unusually clean. And for a moment, he wondered if perhaps he'd walked up to the wrong one. Then he saw the young woman bending over the fire, cooking his evening meal. How beautiful she is, he thought. That evening, Ichiro told her about all that had happened, about freeing the crane and about the hunter and the prefect and having to make the hunter whole, worrying where he was going to be able to come up with the money to do so without himself starving. When the young woman said, I too can help you. While I was cleaning today, I noticed you have a loom in the back room, which was covered in dust. It was my mother's, Ichiro explained. When we were children, she would weave beautiful cloth on it and sell it in the marketplace to earn extra money, which keep us all well fed. I do can weave, the young woman said. If you allow me, I do can also weave cloth on your mother's loom, and with the extra money, you can pay your debt. Very well, Ichiro replied. So between them, they came up with enough coins that Ichiro was able to buy some thread. Then the young woman set about weaving, and in a few days she'd woven a beautiful bolt of cloth. But after selling it in the marketplace, they calculated that even if she would weave day and night for the entire month, it still wouldn't be enough to extinguish his debt, and he'd be thrown in jail. Their hopes dashed, or so it seemed. The young woman then told Ichiro something astounding. She possessed some magic, she told him, that she could only use in the direst of circumstances, and only if certain conditions were strictly adhered to. Otherwise, the magic would turn and instead kill her. She would weave a bolt of cloth, she told Ichiro, that would be the finest ever seen in Japan, which would put an end to their poverty. But the conditions were, she admonished him, that she must lock herself away in the weaving room until the cloth was finished, and that he, Ichiro, must not open the door and look inside for any reason whatsoever until she herself came out. He agreed. So she locked herself away in the weaving room and set about her task. For one whole day and one whole night, she worked at the loom, never once stopping, never once asking for food or water. Only the click, click, click of the treadles and the knock of the shuttlecock as each thread was woven. Until at sunrise on the following morning, she emerged from the weaving room, her hands raw and shaking, holding a bolt of the most delicate, shimmering white cloth Ichiro had ever laid eyes upon. Angel dough cloth, he gasped. And angel cloth it was. And when Ichiro took it and sold it in the marketplace, he returned home with 10 gold coins, many times the amount of debt he owed, and enough for them to live comfortably for several years, if she would agree to be his wife. And she did. It wasn't long, however, before news of this beautiful angel cloth began to spread. And one day, a messenger from the governor of the prefecture knocked on Ichiro's door. "The governor," the messenger said, "requests that if you will weave a bolt of a cloth for him, like the one you sold in the marketplace, he will gladly repay you 100 gold coins." 100 gold coins, Ichiro turned to his wife. "With that much money, poverty will never touch us again." "But the husband," his new wife pleaded, "the magic, it is a powerful. It controls me as much as I control it. And if the circumstances aren't dire..." "You are right," Ichiro interjected. "How could I have been so thoughtless? Of course, we must deny the governor's request and hope he isn't so angry." But as it turns out, it wasn't the governor's request so much as it was the governor's wife's demand that she should possess such rare and beautiful cloth. So Ichiro's wife relented. She loved him and told him that for his sake she would weave one more bolt of angel cloth, but that it must be her last, or else the magic would surely consume her. And she warned him again that he must not open the door and look inside the weaving room until she herself came out. So she shut the door and once more set about her task. For 3 whole days this time, and 3 whole nights, she worked relentlessly at the loom, never once stopping, never once asking for food or water. Ichiro, for his part, anxiously paced the floor, up and back, each time passing the door to the weaving room. One moment, thinking about all of that gold and the security it would bring them. And the next, shame for not having refused the governor's demand. For he remembered how much the angel cloth took out of his wife the first time, how thin and frail she appeared when she emerged from the weaving room. He was also fraught by her admonition that if the circumstance wasn't truly dire, the magic would turn on her. My wife, he called at the door. My wife, it has been 3 days since I heard from you. 2 more than before. Are you okay? But she didn't answer as the loom continued unabated. Click, kata, click, it went. Click, kata, click, click. Click, kata, click, until Ichiro could stand it no longer. Kata, click. And ignoring his wife's admonition, kata, click, he pushed open the door to the weaving room. Kata, click, and froze, aghast at the sight in front of him, which was not his beautiful young wife, but that of a great white crane, its long beak stained with blood from plucking out its own feathers and weaving them on the loom into the angel cloth. I do am the crane you released that day from the hunter's trap, she said. I do became a human in order to thank you for your kindness. Then I stay because I fall in love with you. But now that you have seen me in my true form, the magic, it has left me, as I must leave you, my husband, and return to the world of the cranes. And with that, she took flight, leaving behind the nearly completed bolt of angel cloth as her parting gift. There's an epilogue to this story. It's said that after a period of mourning, Ichiro took the cloth to the governor of the prefecture and his wife, and upon presenting it to them, told them the story. This story about his beautiful crane wife and how the angel cloth came to be, which so moved them that they declared the entire prefecture a safe haven for the cranes, as it remains to this day.